John is a hero who defeated the Demon King in another world. He was praised by all as an almighty being, but few knew he was the one summoned by the goddess to save her collapsing world. Now, having completed the mission he agreed to, she is ready to send him back to his original world. The crazy thing is, during the 20 years he lived in that other world, time stopped. Not a single second passed in his own dimension. That means he will return to the exact moment he was summoned. However, when he goes back to his original world, he will lose all memories of those 20 years. His current memories of this world. But the goddess isn't the stingy type. She wouldn't send him back without a worthy reward. She granted him a fragment of divine power without saying a word about it. All she mentioned were mysterious cryptic terms. Almost no explanation. Finally, she sent him back to his original world amid Jihan's confusion. The moment after, since Jihan remembered nothing of the past 25 years, he woke up thinking it was just another ordinary day. He picked up his phone and saw a flood of messages from his manager. She was urging John to come to work immediately. Looks like our guy is in big trouble. Then John skipped breakfast and rushed out like his life was on the line. No surprise when he faced the fury of his fiery manager. She cursed at John relentlessly as if with no cooldown, while Jihan could only lower his head and take it. Anyway, he had to get back to work with a body drained of all motivation after the recent torment. Jihan's current job clearly wasn't enough to live on, especially since he was struggling to pay overdue rent. Every day he had to think of ways to take on more part-time jobs just to get by. Sitting in the corner of the room, Jihan silently wished he had awakened sooner. Maybe things would be different. Just as he was thinking that, the protagonist's aura appeared along with his own surprised look. A system window popped up before Jihan. He had unlocked a unique skill, a powerful trait called skill mastery. That's right, Jihan had finally awakened. Here's a bit of background about awakening and the current world. People like Jihan who awaken are called users. It has been 5 years since monster entities appeared. They began invading the world with special zones called portals appearing everywhere on Earth. The whole world started revolving around the new resources from them. Meanwhile, users are granted powers to conquer and explore monster-infested zones. Even menial jobs in these zones can earn enough money to survive. That's why everyone wants to be a professional user rather than a regular worker. Of course, this life is full of risks because they have to enter extremely dangerous places. But the rewards are too tempting for human greed. However, inevitably, not all users succeed. Some awaken from the start with top-tier unique traits, while others aren't so lucky and struggle to conquer monster zones. At the top of the food chain is the world's #1 user, Muhammad An. He was the first to reach level 70 and possessed an SS-Rank unique trait called Dragon Language, or Tongue of Dragons. Until one day, Muhammad An posted a video on his official YouTube channel with a title that sparked massive curiosity and countless views. In the video, Muhammad showcased a crazy display of power that no one could look away from. A type of magic that could be called every mage's dream. The magic Muhammad used is called Meteor Shower, a destructive spell that can wipe out countless lives in the blink of an eye. Everyone watching was extremely excited. No one ever thought they'd witness such magnificent power just through a phone screen. The zone Muhammad wiped out in seconds was an A-rank area. It is known that even at level 70, conquering an A-rank area alone is almost impossible. Meteors destroy everything in their path, including monsters. They can easily flatten an entire city. The overwhelming power leaves everyone stunned. But what shocked the audience even more was at the end of the video when Muhammad issued a public challenge to all users worldwide. The skill he used, SS-Rank Meteor Shower, was so powerful that he promised to give a rare artifact called the Elemental Ring to anyone who could perform a more spectacular magic than that. The Elemental Ring is known to be the only publicly known SS-Rank artifact to date, a supreme treasure that everyone desires to possess. Until now, no one has conquered his challenge. In a cafeteria, 2 users were talking about that challenge. They felt disappointed because Muhammad set the standard so high that no one could reach it. The girl just felt annoyed. Clearly, Muhammad's challenge was a trap because surely no one could succeed. Who even has an SS rank trait? Even if someone did, they would never get the elemental ring unless Muhammad personally recognized their power. I guess Muhammad clearly has no intention of actually giving the ring to anyone. He's probably just showing off his power. Muhammad's challenge video spread like wildfire and became a hot topic on every news channel. Many countries and users began trying, but it was almost impossible. Muhammad's challenge seemed like an unattainable miracle. But everything changed when he appeared, the one who would soon be known worldwide. The moment John stood on the battlefield, his hand started moving with just a light snap of his fingers. Immediately, meteors began falling from the sky, burning everything in a sea of fire. The meteor shower was so devastating that everything was completely wiped out. After causing destruction, the world simply gave a thumbs up and thanked Muhammad An for showing such an amazing skill. Of course, everyone watching was absolutely amazed. People started talking about the strange young man and his unusual actions. Keyboard warriors across the country flooded the comments to react to the miserable failure Muhammad just suffered. While many wondered who that guy was, the biggest question on everyone's mind was, who the hell is that guy? And here is a bit of knowledge about awakening and unique traits. When users awaken, they often gain a unique trait which basically enhances the effects of certain skills and is often considered a character class in the game. Some of the most famous unique traits publicly known are Dragon Tongue, a top skill that makes mages stronger than dragons. Next is Miracle, a trait that grants healing abilities so powerful it is said to be able to resurrect the dead. Then Rebirth, turning someone into an invincible tank with endurance or even the ability to regrow limbs. Finally, Attack, which helps the user become a warrior who can defeat any enemy. But surprisingly, no one has ever mentioned the Master trait, which is the main skill that our Jian just awakened. Back to Jian, after searching online, he could hardly find any information about his trait. But there were a few useful things when evaluating ability. The first thing people look at is the level. Usually, the higher the level, the stronger the effects, and the more sub-abilities there are. Levels range from F to SS. Then Jian quickly opened his status window, but when he checked his trait, he found it was an undefined X level, something never mentioned before. Then he looked at his basic stats and was speechless with himself. A high-level trait should come with perfect stats. So this was nothing but a slap in the face saying his skill was trash. Putting that aside, he continued to check his minor traits and found he only had 2. The more he looked, the more stuck John felt because there was no clear information about his trait. He didn't even know if he was considered strong or weak. The system then displayed a tutorial quest asking him to copy a skill. When activating the skill, you will receive 20 items. However, there is a note: the copy skill will automatically disappear when the clock strikes 0. That quest board was truly surprising. But what was even more shocking was that to copy someone's skill, you had to go to the battlefield and watch them use the skill in person. And with stats as low as they are now, that's basically a suicide mission. Then suddenly, an idea flashed in Jihan's mind. He remembered Muhammad An, who had showcased the Meteor Rain skill on the Raging Shoulder roll online a few days ago. So Jihan immediately pulled out his phone. When rewatching that broadcast, the system immediately displayed all detailed information about the skill. When the system asked if he wanted to copy it, Jihan was truly shocked. He never expected to be able to copy a skill just by watching a video at home. And just like that, Jihan appeared on every news broadcast after winning that public challenge. Elsewhere, when Muhammad saw the face of the person who completed the challenge being shown everywhere, he gave a slight smile. His secretary entered at the same time. She wasn't sure if giving the elemental ring like this was a good idea, but it seemed Muhammad didn't care much about the ring. He said he was more interested in the fact that the skill he had just learned a few weeks ago was now being used by someone else. Meanwhile, the secretary argued that there are many skills similar to Meteor Rain, and the guy was probably just using a skill that resembled it. But how could that be? Muhammad emphasized that this was too much of a coincidence. Not only was the other person's skill SS-Rank, it also had exactly the same name. However, the secretary was still unconvinced because it was too unbelievable, saying they hadn't confirmed it was really SS-Rank and that it might all be an elaborate show. But those words didn't sway Muhammad. He was certain the skill was at least SS-Rank and had a unique special attribute. "Why didn't you send my business card along with the ring?" Muhammad explained he didn't want the other person to be too suspicious because he wanted to be friends with him in the future. At the same time, we see the skill copier lord replaying the video he himself had posted. The video was spreading rapidly, and it was no surprise that Jihan started going crazy with illusions about a bright future ahead. Meanwhile, a little girl standing at the cashier looked like she was about to starve to death, and the other person still acted indifferent. John was still enjoying himself, mentally flattering himself, thinking he was probably about to become famous, until a deep, heavy voice rose. The girl's father was getting annoyed. "Hey, you idiot, stop looking at your phone and focus on your job. You're just a 12-water porter." After serving the customer, Jihan plopped down on the chair and sighed in disappointment. He thought everything would change, but it seemed like he got nothing after completing that challenge. It was probably just a scam, no SS item at all. But then again, if the reward was real, it would be enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Maybe even become as strong as Muhammad On and be celebrated by the public. Something that was once unimaginable. Probably just a pipe dream. It's time to get back to real work. While Jian was still daydreaming, a sudden notification pulled him back to reality. The real legend promised to give a worthy reward for winning the challenge. The entire social network immediately went wild. The big shot finally spoke up and everyone was fired up. Jihan couldn't believe it could his dream have come true just like that. Next scene, he sat stiffly beside the secretary, introducing himself as Lee Soo-jun, the one coming to deliver the promised gift. She even took him home in a luxury car as if it was completely normal. Meanwhile, the man kept the same expression as before. Half shocked, half like, "What the hell is happening to my life?" In the room, Jia stared intently at the ring. He still wasn't sure if it was a dream or a system glitch. The system displayed the stats of the elemental ring, and they were truly insane. Every stat was overpowered exactly like a genuine SS-Rank item. Just then, Gene suddenly snapped out of his daze, sitting upright, knowing this wasn't the time to be self-absorbed. This ring is a life-or-death chance for me to start training seriously. Looking at the stats board, Gene knew that hunting monsters in the wilderness was the only way to level up from zero. But there was one problem: he didn't even have money to buy decent armor. It's true that viral videos bring huge revenue, but he couldn't withdraw a dime without verifying his identity, and he didn't want to do that at all. It really was a vicious cycle with no way out. Then Gene sat down and started thinking hard. Suddenly, an idea popped into his head. Instead of recklessly rushing into battlefields, why not set up a booth at the edge and offer emergency healing services? After all, the healing profession does make good money. A quick post was immediately uploaded to the forum just seconds later. Gene silently thought that just sitting and patching up people leaving the battle zone could earn him hundreds of thousands of won, basically getting paid without doing much. The next day, it was known that Gene had copied a level C healing skill strong enough to treat broken bones and severed limbs, but after sitting all day, no one showed up. Life's not like a dream. Gene scrolled through his phone thinking he should bring something to kill time next time when suddenly drops of blood fell. Across from him, a man rushed toward Gene at a terrifying speed, holding a severely injured woman in his arms. Meanwhile, our healer was still lost in music, thinking today might be a total loss. The man's shadow stood right in front of Gene, his cold face covered in blood as if about to devour him. "Oh my God, come on, it's just an emergency. Does it have to be this intense?" The man growled orders. Gene started treatment with an authoritative tone that left no room for refusal. But Gene didn't like that tone at all. It reminded him of hackers who barged into convenience stores acting like the customer is king. No way he'd treat someone like that, Gene told himself. Even though this healing skill wasn't his own, it was still level C. There was no way he'd waste it on a rude stranger who couldn't speak properly. 200,000. Won Gene was about to push back when the man shoved a stack of 200,000 won bills forward. "Shoes tied, sir, please, this way. There's nothing in this world that money can't solve." Gene immediately switched to customer care mode, maxing out his respectful attitude. But soon regret surged when he saw the woman's severed arm and felt nausea rising in his gut. The man placed the arm back in position and ordered Gene to begin treatment. Gene forced himself to look at the gruesome wound as if even the air around it shrank. His hands trembled. He wasn't even sure if his level C healing skill was strong enough, but how would he know if he didn't try? So Gene activated the healing light. Fortunately, with the wholehearted effort of a dedicated doctor, everything went smoothly. The girl's arm was reattached. After serving the client, Gene went home and collapsed on his bed, feeling like he had just finished a hard day's work. Even though he earned a good amount of money, he had to use his healing skill 3 times. That's what it's like selling yourself to capitalism. Without the elemental ring, it would have been totally impossible. What worried him more was why that team got completely wiped out. The only conclusion was that hunting zones were extremely dangerous and best avoided. Thinking back, this way of making money is pretty nice, right? For now, he could retire and chill until the end of the world, ha-ha. Then that funny face quickly disappeared for seriousness. Gene promised himself that now that he had enough money to live, it was time to focus on farming products and truly leveling up. Suddenly, a guide quest appeared requiring him to upgrade a passive skill called passive income. Passive income is one of the main ways to earn products, which are very important for developing master-level specialty skills. Gene finally understood why passive skills had levels. It turned out he could maximize their potential by using products to upgrade them. He needed 100 products to upgrade the passive income skill. Currently, this skill gave him 10 products every 24 hours. The funny thing was, if he spent 100 products to upgrade it, he would get 100 products back as a quest completion reward. In other words, it was a win-win deal. Plus, he would unlock a new passive skill upon completing the quest. It was clear he had to upgrade this skill as soon as possible. After checking the total number of products he had, he realized he needed to wait 3 more days to earn enough points to complete the mission. During these 3 days, he decided to experiment by copying new skill combinations. Just then, a knock on the door signaled that the room service staff had brought all the delicious food John had ordered. With the feast before him, he told himself to live fully in the present. John focused most on skills ranked S and above. Those types of skills now almost only exist in legends. Suddenly, John remembered Muhammad An like an angel appearing from nowhere executing an SS-Rank skill he had copied. Still, he needed to find a way to keep the copied skills longer. Maybe if he upgraded his master skill enough, he could keep those skills without them resetting. He decided to organize all the videos into a playlist, prioritizing what to use immediately and what to save for later. This one definitely has to be added. Sounds pretty cool. The list kept growing while the pile of food on the table was quickly cleaned out. Oh my God, I can't stuff anything else in. My belly is swelling like a balloon about to burst. John felt very satisfied because he had ensured his future by registering as a healer with the Magic Healing User Association. With the skills he currently had, his value on the user market would surely skyrocket. John was eagerly looking forward to the day hot girls would line up to compete for him. The next day, while he was sitting in the hunting area, the goddess who had been injured a few days ago came to thank him. She was now fully recovered, but it seemed this idiot didn't recognize her. Their eyes met awkwardly when she asked if he really didn't remember her. The guy bluntly replied no, as if he had never met her before. Then she reminded him that a few days ago her brother had brought her here, and he was the one who treated her. That was when Jian suddenly remembered she was the beauty who had been injured with a mangled arm a few days ago. He really thought she was that guy's girlfriend because he spent a ton of money on her, but it turned out she was his sister. Regardless, the girl was happy that Jian finally remembered her. This made it easier for her to express her gratitude. Without you, I would probably be lying deep in a grave by now. Have you joined any team yet? Jian answered no. Have you joined any guild again? John answered no. So she invited him to join her team because they needed a healer. John was startled by this sudden invitation. Feeling he wasn't fit enough to go to the battlefield, he intended to refuse. But the way the girl like the goddess showed her femininity, this girl-crazy guy couldn't resist temptation and immediately agreed. But the moment the words came out, both of them jumped at a nearby loud roar. A wounded man was groaning like he was about to die. His companion was dragging him off the battlefield and needed immediate treatment. John was standing at a crossroads in life. On one side was a once-in-a-millennium beauty. On the other was wealth hard to earn in 10,000 years. It wasn't hard to choose when John immediately rushed to treat the wounded man. The conscience of a doctor didn't allow him to abandon the man. In no time, he had fully healed the man and received a fat, well-deserved payment. But don't forget the promise to that girl about joining the team. His face slowly turned awkward. However, since Jian was already making enough money, he awkwardly said he didn't see the need to join her team, especially since his current level was too low to roam the battlefield. The girl kept trying to persuade him, revealing that her team had an S-rank tank and an S-rank mage supporting them. She was confident they could carry him easily. Meanwhile, Jian quietly packed his things and left. It was clear. He had just seen this girl badly injured on a low-level battlefield not long ago and definitely didn't want to follow that path. Of course, he didn't say that outright. He knew this was a rare chance to be recruited by such a beauty. But what can you do? Life forces you. Tears and money are all that's left. When you ran away, the only thought in your head now was to quickly earn enough money and products to become an omnipotent mage. Sitting on the hotel rooftop with a pile of silver coins looking down at the bustling city, enjoying a new luxurious life, Jihan was feeling that the most important day of his life had finally arrived. He discovered he had just received 10 product points thanks to the passive income effect. He invested all the points into upgrading this skill, spending 100 products to unlock the advanced version of the passive income skill from level 1 to level 2. Now every day he would receive 50 free products without doing anything. Living like a king, indeed. After finishing, he checked the mission rewards and received an additional 100 products along with the ability to inherit the unique traits of any skill. He copied the unique trait Hu Jian thought maybe they reflect the typical skill usage tendencies of players. Players are only allowed to use skills after learning them from skill books, but the actual power of the skill depends on the innate talent of the user. For example, a normal person without any special traits would have a much weaker fireball compared to someone with a talent related to fire. For that reason, learning many skills is often considered useless, because without original talent, skills are just toys. Only the skill Jian copied from Muhammad in the video was an exception, because that's how the system showed him the mechanics. But with the new ability he just received, any skill he copies will inherit the original user's traits. That means his copy skill will now be as strong as the original. However, he still didn't understand what random meant in this ability. John thought he should experiment with a few things to be sure how this power specifically works. After some thought, he saw this as a good chance to end his miserable life as a freelance heller. A mission board appeared right before his eyes. Hunting monsters with copied skills would help him level up and upgrade stronger versions of those skills. The mission required him to kill at least 20 monsters and would reward a total of 200 product points. It felt like someone was watching and answering his request. The mission appeared so coincidentally that John began to question life. Anyway, since this is a monster hunting mission, he probably needed a suitable skill to use. He immediately opened the phone in his hand. Gene scrolled to a fire skill demonstration video and wondered if he should copy it to practice. Here it is. Gene finally chose a video of a hot girl demonstrating a fireball and said it was just a coincidence. When activating the copy skill, he received an E-rank fireball skill. This is a fairly simple skill with an equally simple usage requirement, just as the system said. He also received a burning trait as a secondary effect. Allowing the fireball to create such a large effect made him truly feel like someone was watching him, because everything felt like it was handed to him for free. The next day, our friend stepped into the sheep camp where the entrance to the monster hunting area was. He observed the spatial gap and wondered if this was the boundary between reality and the battle zone, but probably it wasn't a big deal. Yesterday, Jian decided to go all out and bought a full set of equipment to ensure safety. The decisive moment had arrived. It was time to end the miserable life of a heller. Meanwhile, a mysterious guy was becoming famous on the forum with the nickname Crazy because he single-handedly wiped out a bunch of low-level monsters. People saw him madly slaughtering monsters, so it was no surprise that many contacted him and even invited Crazy into their guilds. Who else but someone from our family? He recalled that he had already declined an invitation from a super high-ranked S-rank girl, so it was no surprise to refuse these guys. They didn't know but that Beauty even cried because I rejected her. But those people were probably spreading rumors, right, Dita? Did I laugh while hunting monsters? Well, in the actual battle, this guy chuckled like a villain dealing with enemies. His face definitely looked like a villain. Jihan suddenly remembered and thought that his excitement made him lose control. Defeating the monsters helped you earn the required product points and also reduced the cost of using the copy skill, that's why. I was about to stop because I was running out of mana, but the mission reward reduced consumption by 10%, so I kept hunting. While browsing the community forum, you read a post about a raid on the obsidian bear boss area. In the comments, everyone was shocked to learn that the fire spirit named Tam had defeated the Abyssian bear without any equipment and was still at a low level. Meanwhile, Jian recalled that he only managed that by spamming fireballs. Then he suddenly remembered something terrible, dragged his chair back loudly, and stood up. A flash of enlightenment hit him as if a revelation had just appeared. He remembered that he once received a gift from the strongest player, Muhammad, to whom he still owed a ring. None of this would have happened without the mana ring. Now, going back a few days, let's see what happened during the battle with the obsidian bear boss. At that time, the monster was frantically attacking, forcing the Wong to rush to the front line to block the damage. They ordered the mages to stay behind safely and prepare firepower. But these people had no idea that our side already had a plan, because Jihan had the task of defeating the boss with a reward of 500 product points, so he definitely had to get involved. While the strange obsidian bear was spreading terror among the group, John lightly threw a fireball that caused massive damage. The group leader was immediately shocked by the scene and focused on the fire mage who had just struck Jihan. All eyes were on him. In front, the angry bear kept taking fireballs with each swipe from Jihan. 1 throw, 2 throws. Then what had to happen happened. The bear lay on the ground while the group was confused about whether the fight was over. Everyone wondered if the boss was really just that easy, but some others thought it couldn't be that simple. Then the horror began as the obsidian bear roared fiercely. It suddenly jumped up and charged at the group, activating an A-rank skill that drastically reduced all their stats. The rage state was the boss's second state, even though it had already taken a large amount of damage. On the player's side, most were weakened too much by the bear's skill and could barely stand. Many didn't even have the strength to hold their swords anymore. The bear then focused its fury on attacking the leader. The leader struggled to block the blows with his sword, while the rest of the group was almost useless, weakened and lying on the ground. Everyone except one person, John, still stood as if nothing had happened, eyes fixed ahead. The system granted him an additional mission called copying the boss's skill. This time he was given a free copy slot to use immediately. Detailed information about the obsidian bear's roar appeared before him, and he immediately activated the copy skill. The bear's roar skill triggers a powerful roar if its HP drops below 50% within 60 seconds. John inherited the boss monster's deadly skill. However, the skill came with a side effect that randomly removes part of the skill's attributes. So the requirement to have 50% HP remaining was removed. This allowed him to use the skill freely without needing to be injured or have reduced HP. This is way too overpowered. This skill doesn't even cost mana anymore. Knowing the skill would disappear at midnight, he took the chance to use it immediately before it cooled down. A beam of light surrounded Jihan's body, and the roar was released right after. Using this roar immediately stunned all teammates, causing their stats to drop. Roaring again. The group thought the bear had roared once more, but few knew it was Jian, and all their stat drops were caused solely by this demon. After everything that happened, Jian slowly approached the bear without fear. On the way, he raised his hand to the sky with a smirk. A fireball formed on his fingertip, gradually growing and blazing before being thrown down in anger at the bear that had troubled the group. The teammates were stunned watching one person single-handedly destroy the obsidian bear. After defeating the region's boss, he leveled up twice and retained the copied skill. But this special event only happened because it was a tutorial mission meant to show that he could copy skills from bosses. The mission also rewarded an additional 700 product points, which was really trendy. Right after the monster was defeated, your team shouted out in celebration. All hands pointed in one direction, and today's hero character had found their owner. There was a moment that seemed to have been lost from memory. The obsidian bear's soul absorption system activated, increasing the stats of everyone nearby. Soul absorption was new to John, since he had only ever heard about it before. It's known that regional bosses are usually at least 10 levels higher than monsters in the area. That means if someone tries to rely on a higher-level player to kill the boss for them, the regional boss will detect it and immediately destroy the body along with the boss's rewards. Those rewards are the main target for players who risk everything to enter special zones. At that moment, a member noticed an item dropped from the obsidian bear. In his hand was a glove with unknown details. Also, the defeated boss's corpse could be sold at a high price because of its rarity. But alongside that, Jian was extremely excited because his strength stats increased. The best part of joining a raid is that after completion and boss defeat, each member permanently gains stat boosts. The battle was a brilliant success, just as expected. Some people in the group came forward and said straight up that he was the reason they won this time. The MVP was the team leader, and that was him, the raid group leader. They even said they thought the team would suffer heavy casualties as soon as the obsidian bear went berserk. But thanks to his efforts, that didn't happen. When interacting with the status board, the leader checked the boss item that just dropped. Although it was very valuable, it had an activation condition requiring the player to be below 30% health, meaning you have to be near death for it to be useful. Sounds great, but the condition is really annoying. Yeah, that's true. Staying above 30% health is already a challenge. The crowd gathered, and the leader announced that the items dropped from the boss's corpse would be distributed through the player guild. However, a man suddenly said he wanted to buy these items right there and was willing to pay 90% of the value up front in cash. Could it be that these members were starting to talk about the group that specializes in buying items dropped from outdoor boss areas? Their sole goal is to collect special items, so they're nicknamed boss item hunters. John stood aside suspiciously, and a sense of unease kept signaling in him. What scheme are these guys plotting? Just then, a suitcase opened. One of the bodyguards opened it to reveal a large stack of money, confirming they could pay immediately. Oh my God, the pile of cash in front of John made it impossible for him to suppress the beast rising inside. He immediately stopped caring about their intentions. The scene shifted to Jian sitting in a shabby field as usual. What does earning 10,000 even mean? He was truly sinking into despair because John had his eyes on a special equipment set called Zarekta Armor, which cost a whopping 63,000. It was enough to break his heart. He thought holding 10,000 in hand was like wielding power. Even after learning there were only 2 sets left in stock, he felt like he was living in poverty. He told the seller he would come back one day soon. Meanwhile, the reality was that he only had expensive taste. Anyway, Jian's scheming mind was focused on hunting as much as possible. At this moment, he opened the status window to claim the tutorial mission reward. Fortunately, he could still copy the boss monster's skill from here. However, unlike the tutorial mission, this skill was quite risky because it required his health to be below 50%. But honestly, the fire skill was still the absolute strongest. Having it alone was enough to hunt bosses, right? After admiring himself, Jian began stretching his under-20 body. He decided to invest some accumulated points to enhance his own stats. Your current stats lean heavily towards a mage, while the other stats are quite terrible. Right now, there are many options. For example, if you follow the fantasy path like in the movies, being a swordsman is the best fit. However, you don't want to risk your life every day in such a dangerous place. Noticing a change in your magical power, you spend 500 points to upgrade your copying skill. This allows you to use the copying skill 1 extra time per day. This is extremely exciting news. The tutorial quest also points out that daily quests are the only sure way to earn product points. And you unexpectedly receive a simple quest to use the copying skill twice with a reward of 80 products. So what if I copy the same skill twice? As soon as you think that you open your phone, after watching a short video, you decide to copy the healing light skill. After acquiring it, you wonder if the skill's properties will change or if there will be 2 identical skills with different effects. So you decide to try again. A quick tap triggers a warning that you've already copied this skill. Ignoring the warning, you proceed to copy it a second time and are very surprised when it succeeds. This time, you've hit the jackpot again. The next day, the signboard is quickly updated with the latest information, announcing that now you're selling a healing service with a 5% experience boost for only 1,000. This rare offer immediately attracts the attention of many players gathering around you. Taking a deep breath, you shout to promote your service. Selling 5% experience boost corn lasts for 5 hours. Limited corn, only, no effect, no money. The crowd around you is shocked and skeptical because experience point corn is something unheard of. Could it be that guy plans to take the money and run? Meanwhile, you're just waiting to be showered with cash. Don't hesitate anymore, everyone. Suddenly, a foot steps forward through the crowd. A mage approaches and leans close to you. She pulls down her hood, revealing herself as the hot S-Rank girl from before. So you're still not interested in hunting with us. Before she can tease you into joining the party, seeing that face, you feel overwhelmed. A light as bright as the sun shines directly into your face. You tell her you're focusing on business, and she teases that it looks like you don't have your first customer yet. If so, I'm happy to be your first customer. My brother and I will buy this. Money solves everything. You treat them as honored guests and invite them inside. Activating the new healing light skill, you help them gain 5% more combat experience. Before leaving, she gives you her personal card with her phone number, saying she'll wait for your call. My group really needs a good healer, and it seems this girl is seriously interested in you. More importantly, she helps confirm the practicality of your service in front of everyone, causing a crowd of customers to rush in to try it out. Now you really feel rich with money being thrown right in your face. But sorry, here we don't do card swipes. Meanwhile, let's go back to the hot girl and her brother. The brother looks a bit annoyed because his sister is too interested in a guy who doesn't even have gear. Didn't you always tell me to stay away from people like that so you wouldn't get tricked? But the mage sister reminds her dear brother that their group would be unbeatable if they had this guy. Both of them are already very good at their roles. Now they just need a reliable healer. And on top of that, this guy can farm experience too, so it's a jackpot if they can recruit him. But after all, he's still just a newbie. But she thinks that's the best part because they've already recognized Jihan's potential early on. At the same time, the two of them step into the area where the S-Rank female mage unleashes a firestorm, wiping out a group of lizard warriors. She continues their earlier conversation and feels that someone like you has a very bright future as a warrior. Who knows, maybe you'll become an amazing scammer later on. At the same time, outside with the millions earned from the sales, Jian finally bought the armor he liked and looked extremely cool in that outfit. But isn't passive income way better than this? So he started playing with the system screen and discovered he could easily earn 50 to 200 points daily during a set time slot. This means that even doing nothing, his product points would still accumulate every day. He was calculating the cost to upgrade the copying skill to level 2, which was 3,000. But when aiming for level 3, he was surprised to find the upgrade required 4,000 points. A real shock. The good news is that daily missions give a lot of product points. So if he earns a steady 200 points each day, it will take about 49 days to reach his goal. Meanwhile, a few people seemed to recognize him. John thought another field battle would be a good idea. He wore a hoodie and remembered he was known as a healer. So now he would play the secret role of a mage and continue using that. The scene shifted to a field battle, but unfortunately the area was muddy, making his new outfit terribly dirty. The F-rank battlefield named Gorum Bay specializes in nullifying attacks, and Jian wondered if this testing ground was mainly for new awakeners. The sheep farm last time was probably much more comfortable, right? Of course, with the limits of the battlefield, he was struggling to gather souls from weak bosses. Recalling a warning from a community member, he thought it would be fine since nothing happened during the Obsidian Bear raid. So what could possibly go wrong now? All he wanted was to get home immediately. But looking at these clowns standing around talking made every nerve in his body want to ignite. Are we here to hunt monsters or for some kind of group date, you guys? One guy in the group asked if Jian was really a guy just because he gave his character a weird name when signing up for the raid. Oh, it was just a reversed name for the nickname. And only now did he realize that because Jian took the female spot in the group, that guy was also lonely, almost flirting gay. Meanwhile, the blonde guy casually told the group to start the strategy meeting. He said the strategy was very simple. No need to explain much, but would repeat it one more time. The boss of this battlefield is a mud crab that gains speed each time it is stunned by a player's bicep attack. This rules out using bicep attacks from the mage because it would make the fight harder as the boss gets stronger. The crab also has some self-inflicted bicep moves like getting injured or bleeding, meaning the more injured it is, the faster it moves. The goal is to kill it without causing too many wounds because after a certain threshold, the boss will activate a special effect. This made Jian cautious until the night guy returned with his usual flirting brag that he had defeated 8 bosses like this, so this one was no big deal. John assessed the situation and wondered if the stat boost when receiving buff hits was a special skill of the crab. This was important information because basically, if so, the buff hits were equivalent to buffs. But he was also very annoyed by the flirting atmosphere happening and wondered if the deadweights in the group were really useful. And then very quickly, everyone found the local monsters. The battle started when the blonde warrior rushed forward to slash and kill some creatures. But something felt off. They acted all cool, killing tiny clams, and posed as if they had just achieved a great feat. This group behaved as if they were slaughtering hordes of monsters, when in reality it was just small clams. Enough to hold them easily. The sword and hammer wielders struck decisively. Meanwhile, the blonde kept babbling non-stop about protecting everyone when they faced the boss. But his confidence flew straight out the window when thorny tentacles suddenly emerged from the ground, forcing him to retreat immediately. Since the boss in this stage only appears after killing a certain number of monsters, they were trying to defeat as many creatures as possible. The whole group quickly formed a formation and rained arrows down on the centipede-like monsters. John still hadn't done anything and was quite satisfied to see the group holding out for now. His skills were stronger than the F-level battlefield, so he was hoping the main boss would appear quickly. Maybe you spoke too soon because a claw like a crab's mouth suddenly emerged from the ground and swallowed a monster whole. The whole group realized the real raid had just begun when the crab appeared larger than they had imagined. Because this boss monster was limited in movement, they were instructed to attack only in a straight line, not to move left or right. Meanwhile, John was surprised while observing the crab's skill details. This is truly a unique skill. The status panel appeared right before his eyes. It was wrong to think this crab couldn't change direction and adjust its movement. It was herding the whole group like ducks. Jian assessed its special skill as a permanent passive that increases stats each time it receives or uses corn. This excited him even more because it didn't even specify a duration, meaning the skill was continuously active. Meanwhile, the blonde clown, who was said to be Uong Chin, was sitting back, playing, not bothering to join the fight. Based on what he said earlier, Jian realized if they kept attacking physically, the group would run into trouble because the boss had spontaneous corn attacks like bleeding. He really didn't understand what their strategy was at all. Even the crab seemed puzzled about what these idiots were doing because clearly all their attacks were useless. Seeing the tension, our blonde hero decided it was time to join the battle. He shamelessly asked one of the corn girls for some corn, but the worst part was it wasn't even real corn, just a performance to boost morale. John thought to himself that if it were him, he'd just let the crab kill this stupid bunch already. But then a flash appeared under the blonde guy's feet, stunning him. The blonde clown revealed a special power that he never expected. It turned out the skill was called Radiance, an SS-ranked skill that could apply multiple corns to a target, and the duration increased with the recipient's personal rank. He really was blind not to see that was an SS-ranked skill. Recalling a conversation with a sales clerk who had introduced equipment, he learned many players liked uploading videos to their own channels, so the company prepared items to support that. She had complicated explanations about some technology that John couldn't grasp. Back to the present, it turned out his glasses were special and could record battle scenes. This would allow him to access that skill whenever he wanted. If he could combine Radiance with the boss's skill, he would create a perfect combo to gain lots of corn and boost stats. He also discovered that this S-ranked corn skill came from a girl who apparently didn't even know her own value. After being revealed, the blonde guy decided it was time to unleash his move, but first he asked Jihan to strike the boss hard. Along with the call, Jihan gently launched a giant fireball that dealt terrible damage to the crab. Sorry, but I have to steal your spotlight, hero. And to make it even more impressive, he unleashed a trump card skill reserved for this occasion. The burst skill activated as a second part of the fireball effect. The result of the battle left everyone disappointed, a smell that everyone could smell. The crab was cooked so well now they could just eat it right away. Meanwhile, the blonde guy was heartbroken because Jihan stole his moment to shine. Unwilling to accept this, he acted as if the crab was about to unleash a special move and rushed forward to finish it off. But the funny thing was, he was swinging his sword at a dead monster. Sword strikes flew continuously before the eyes of Kwang Chien and the others. After his sweet revenge, surprisingly, he was even proud of himself. Now there was no doubt this guy definitely has no brain. At this moment, John noticed an unexpected change. The A-rank mutation resistance skill from the mud crab now belonged to him. Now he just needed to go back and combine the mutation resistance effect with Radiance to see what kind of powerful magic he could create. John snapped his fingers and said he wanted to go home, leaving everyone stunned for 5 seconds while they all marveled at the recent performance. Thanks, it's because of you that the group was saved. Seeing attention shift to Jean instead of himself, the blonde guy got jealous and told the group to focus on dividing loot instead of wasting time with thanks. Hodu is lucky to still have you by his side. He felt somewhat comforted because that girl was still on his side, until his heart was shattered into pieces when she also rushed over to praise Jean the same way. Regarding dividing the loot, the group truly did not oppose giving the largest share to Jian because his contributions were very clear. He is currently the center of attention. Meanwhile, one of the agents quietly observed the situation and confirmed to the superiors that this time the boss did not drop any items so they would move on to the next point. Clearly, he is the person in the group specializing in buying boss items. Meanwhile, Hodu stood still looking up at the sky. Something about her gives me the feeling that she has more secrets than I imagined. In the following days, Jihan continued to enter monster zones, complete daily quests, and earn 300 product points. His goal was to upgrade his skills to level 3, but this felt like selling himself to capitalists just like before. He also tried combining 2 new skills at the same time. The effects were insanely powerful, as if they came from another world, but there was one big problem. When opening the status window, he realized he didn't have enough skill copy attempts to do anything with the effect. Simply put, since both were copied skills, he couldn't use more than 2 copied skills simultaneously, so he had no skills left to use. John lay stretched out in the field like a twisted worm, hoping some miracle would give him a special quest to earn more points. He didn't expect much, but surprisingly, the system screen popped up with a special tutorial quest just for him. The quest required him to complete the main task, and the reward was a whopping 4,000 product points, exactly the amount needed to upgrade a skill to level 3. John was surprised and wondered what the main quest would be. Suddenly, his gaze shifted as the sky began to darken. The same thing happened outside the dungeon area. The city sky suddenly turned pitch black, accompanied by the appearance of a massive island. This was a new land called Canal Sky Island, with an F-level raid difficulty suitable for levels 1 to 39. His main quest was to clear this area. Since it was a special zone, it was filled with flying monsters. The system required him to eliminate all monsters in this special area because their existence threatened Earth. The appearance of Sky Island was reported nationwide, causing panic among citizens and members of the Player Association. The association was acting in an emergency state. All flights at the airport were suspended, and according to residents' experience, the significant impact now was that they could not get enough sunlight. On the international front, more and more special zones were appearing around the world. For example, Japan's special zone was unique. A land area half the size of the country appeared right next to Tokyo. But in Japan's case, it wasn't an island in the sky. So Koreans thought they were worse off, as they also faced a lack of sunlight. Meanwhile, our Gene realized that Japan's special zone was much worse because it was a B-level zone with creatures level 70 and above freely ravaging Tokyo, causing mass destruction. That meant even a single monster was equivalent to an S-rank warrior. Because the existence of special zones posed a serious threat to humanity and Earth, the Player Association officially requested government support to raid these dangerous zones as soon as possible. A strategy was being deployed to fight the Sky Island, and all players participating in the raid would receive extremely attractive rewards for their efforts to clear the zone. John appeared quite calm and realized things were getting worse. He predicted that while waiting, Jian was still sitting in front of the system trying to find some loophole to earn more products without doing anything. When analyzing the quest details, he realized that after completing the main quest, he would have enough products to upgrade all his skills by another level. This really gave him more motivation to help clear the special zone. The staff finally returned and gave him the item he requested, an item worth 70,000 won. John opened the box and used the system's appraisal skill to evaluate the item's stats. Both the cursed ring and the bracelet are nothing special. They increase mana by 100, but reduce strength and agility in return. Basically, they balance the stats. If John uses the whole set, he'll gain about 400 mana, which is extremely useful for him. Even though other stats are slightly reduced, he still thinks playing the magic route is the safest path, so it's completely acceptable. Now that I think about it, how much money did the armor cost? After thinking, John asked the staff and learned it would cost about 400,000. A sky-high price, but Jean, as a gamer girl, still tried to act cool and professional, stepping outside, as if he would come back when he had enough money to buy it. Cut to Jean and other players waiting at the entrance gate. It's known that he wasn't satisfied with the glasses he bought, so he spent extra money to buy a body cam and hung it on his chest. I should have bought this from the start, right? As always, checking community reviews is a good idea to avoid risks. So John accessed the forum and learned a lot from the comments. It turns out the monsters in the area are much stronger than some players expected, causing them to be easily defeated. The situation is so serious that the forum admins issued an official warning advising melee warriors not to fight inside because the monsters can fly. Players also had difficulty breathing enough oxygen. All those comments were bad news for our main character, who began to realize this might be a D-level area, not F-level, as predicted. Still, he didn't care, and thought those scaredy cats were just overreacting as usual. But then he was suddenly pulled into the teleport gate and transported to the island. The first thing Jian noticed was the change in terrain. A snowy white scene appeared before his eyes. John also noticed the monsters didn't seem too aggressive, at least he thought so until he heard a loud scream from above. Turning around, a giant bird had grabbed another player who was crying desperately out of fear. "Someone please save me, bro." It was truly a terrible day, because that monster silently dropped the victim from hundreds of meters high, killing him instantly. With a worried look, Jian saw a flock of creatures like griffins start flying around him. But little did they know John was just waiting for them to charge. "Come on, dive in, you'll all turn into roasted birds." But surprisingly, the monsters didn't even bother with John. Instead, they targeted a nearby Wong. They were none other than the older brother and the S-rank girl who invited Jian to join their group. The monsters charged to attack their shield, but thanks to the defensive barrier, they were completely safe from the attacks. This allowed the ST-rank mage girl to unleash a firestorm skill from a concentrated point on the shield. It burned all the birds and took them down on the spot. Jian was quite impressed witnessing the massive damage her skill caused, because he didn't think the two of them were that strong. Meanwhile, she didn't seem very impressed and appeared quite disappointed with the experience so far. "It's not as hard as I thought at first." Her brother reminded her not to be careless. "Don't get injured due to carelessness like last time." John started assessing the situation. He had copied the fireball skill, so he was considering whether to also copy the firestorm skill, unaware that harmless-looking slim monsters were sneaking up behind him. She turned back and shouted to her brother that if they had a healer, she wouldn't have been severely injured last time, and she regretted not recruiting Jian with his super healing ability. Then a nearby sound made her look at the person she just mentioned struggling with a bunch of cute slims clinging to his legs, refusing to let go. "Oh no, I got spotted. This scene is so embarrassing." The two slowly approached. "Hey, isn't this our adorable healer guy?" John's face clearly showed his frustration at losing his cool in front of Grad. The last cute slim was finally caught. Its tears fell heavily while Jihan was rescued from the toughest boss fight ever. "Oh my god, do you know how expensive these shoes are, you slim?" To be honest, Heeji's older brother isn't very impressed with you. He hopes his sister will react more rationally and stop being infatuated with that fool. But life isn't a dream. Our elder brother Heeji broke into a bright smile, showing he's still as smitten with Heller as ever. "Looks like you've run into me again this time." Heeji acts as if they are close friends. "It feels like the universe is telling us we have to join forces, right?" This is bad news for Jihan because he wants to go solo on this mission and can't reveal his true identity to the two who still think he's just Heller. She assures him there's nothing to worry about. She'll carry Tim and protect him in this special zone. "What other choice do I have? I guess I'll just accept my fate of being backed up by a beauty, haha." He nods in agreement, then asks to use the restroom briefly to use his copy skill to regain his healing skill. But the funny thing is, he doesn't realize there's nothing around to hide behind, so that excuse is completely ineffective. This is a big problem because if he can't watch the video, he can't copy the skill. It's a tight spot. Then, a little later, all three of them are attacked by the same kind of monsters as before, but this time they're much smarter. The birds carry huge rocks to smash Ung's shield. Clearly, John stands no chance in this fight with only a few skills. What's worse, a herd of rhinos is charging wildly toward the three of them. As Jihan prepares to unleash some skill against them, Ji-hee jumps in front. The surprised look on the other's face winks, signaling "I got this." She uses her firewall skill, then continuously activates Rain of Fire and Flaming Spear, her powerful combination attack. She easily defeats all the monsters without any trouble. After the battle, he's stunned to realize he didn't even have to do anything while the two siblings argue because Haige always rushes ahead even though he's a mage. Impressed by Hig's performance, he asks if all S-rank players have as many skills as she does. He wonders what it would be like to be an S-rank player like himself. Heeji confirms that's true, but adds that these skills are learned by buying skill books, which cost a fortune. In short, no money, no glory. The group continues moving toward their next opponent. This time, it's a sea monster. While Heeji and her brother fight the monster, our Jihan looks pitiful and sad, standing at the back like a useless guy, bored to death. Jian decides to activate his fireball version, and shockingly, this fireball is huge, making the two in front turn around with sweaty faces. He's surprised by the unusual power of this attack. Its normal size is obviously like this, but now it's this big. How can a fireball be that big? Even Jihan is surprised by the skill he just used. Meanwhile, Heeji questions him because that fireball is stronger than any attack she's ever used. Jihan doesn't know how to explain. It turns out he forgot he was testing a skill enhancement that boosts damage by 20%, but consumes much more energy. He tries to stay calm and says it's just a defensive skill that a healer should learn. "Of course I believe you," Heeji says skeptically and asks directly how much mana he has. Like a professional manipulator, he replies that his mana is only average, while in reality, 1,500 is very high for a typical healer. He could use the fireball at least 13 more times, but doesn't want to stand out too much since his role is currently a healer. Anyway, Heeji's older brother is very suspicious of the person in front of him. Other players also start doubting his true abilities after witnessing what just happened. So John tells himself to be careful and only use skills when absolutely necessary. Cut to a small slim crying softly. Another group is mercilessly killing the small slim creatures. "Hey, don't slack on defense. Keep an eye on those flying monsters," a goofy-haired guy says while his friend is annoyed because they're wasting time on the slims instead of focusing on the real threat. "Oh yeah, then go fight those big monsters over there." At this moment, the system announced that the number of monsters killed on the island had reached the threshold needed to summon the boss. The announcement appeared, and some people even thought it would be an easy win. "Let's defeat it quickly and get back." But they were wrong because the enemy they were about to face was a super cool overlord boss of Sky Island who had awakened. Is there something over there? The team members were shocked to see an angelic creature descending from the sky looking like a divine entity. But what was even more astonishing was behind this figure. Insanely powerful, he activated the Heavenly Sword skill to summon a sword. For each monster killed on the island, each sword increases total damage by 1%, and comes with many other effects as long as he remains on the island. Basically, this overpowered skill is an area attack raining swords down on the players here. Hiji's brother struggled to block hundreds of swords piercing through his temporary defensive shield. The three-person group remained safe because the other players were living in actual hell, not long after even Uong reached his limit. It turned out that even if the swords were blocked, players still got crippled, reducing all stats for 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Jian kept healing him and then shifted his focus to the level 59 boss. Almost all of its skills were ranked A or higher, and its base stats were also extremely strong. Very quickly, with a sly expression, Jian came up with some kind of strategy without even looking. "Hey, can you two run? The best plan is to run away." The scene switched to forum comments where everyone was blaming the boss for being too overpowered. It seemed like it had defeated thousands of players all by itself on Sky Island. Now it was nothing but a graveyard, and everyone thought there was no hope if the boss stayed there. After a while, the boss reappeared. This time, one of its wings had turned black. Live footage from players advancing was also streamed online, and everyone was surprised by that. However, only its appearance changed. Its skills were exactly the same as before. The sword rain poured down on the players like a storm. Not only that, but the players now had to endure a second crippling effect that drained their energy. Remember those cute little slims from before? Well, maybe killing them was the right decision because as soon as the boss's effect hit, they started to transform. Their cute shells completely disappeared and were replaced by insect-like monsters ravaging weakened players. Watching the battle video again, Jian felt extremely worried. It turned out that their escape last time was a wise decision based on the boss's unbelievably powerful skills. John understood that he no longer had time to fool around, especially since the boss's crippling effect was starting to take hold. The phone ringing startled him. On the other end was Hi greeting him with hello and asking if he had tried attacking the Sky Island a second time after they left. Of course he hadn't tried because he wasn't prepared yet. However, they couldn't afford to waste time because the Sky Island was like a special zone in Japan. Monsters were starting to flood into Seoul's capital and affect the citizens. This was a timed battle. At this point, Haig also revealed they had formed a large raid team to deal with the boss monster and was curious if John planned to join. And so a few days passed, and the raid team gathered in the large park in the capital where Jian often used to go to sell his skills. Several players looked extremely dejected. Obviously, they were all players who had entered the Sky Island but failed to return. Then some people whispered among themselves, wondering why only B-rank players and above were gathering in a D-rank area. Seeing famous hunters joining the team, John felt like an unknown nobody among a group of elites. Should I even be here? Plus, this time he wasn't wearing his usual cloak. I really don't know if anyone noticed or not. Just then, Haig came over and waved at him, bringing a breath of fresh air amid the tension John was facing in the crowd of strangers. Finally, he met someone familiar. He wondered, considering he saw himself as just a low-rank F-class player. Why was he grouped with such elite top-tier veterans? In response, Hiji reminded him that although he was a Fink, his healing ability far surpassed that rank. She reassured him that since this mission had no member limits, there was nothing to worry about. "But where is the leader?" a voice asked, and then a confident step entered the scene. The raid team's leader finally appeared, approaching the group. Even Hiji showed excitement meeting this person, while Jian was stunned to see the top-ranked Guild Daehan's high-level warrior. He was Lee Hyung-sung, a warrior with the rank of leader. He started by proposing to evaluate each member's individual abilities before discussing the boss attack plan, meaning first they would warm up with a light training session. Hiji was extremely excited, loudly saying they could finally take revenge for their last encounter, while John was completely shocked by the leader's blunt but straightforward order. Anyone dare to object? Looking at the man's back, he looked incredibly cool. Scene shifts to the real battle against monsters charging in. Haidung effortlessly slashed down a group of lizard warriors, impressing Jian even more with his talent. The more he looked, the more fascinated he became with this man. But then he quickly snapped back to reality, remembering his stats were so low that trying to imitate Hyung Sung would only get him killed early. The only reason Jian survived so far was thanks to the elemental ring that boosted his stats. He knew that sticking to magic was the best path forward. However, despite his lack of sword experience, there was something strangely familiar, yet foreign about the way Hai Sung swung his sword. Regardless, Jihan told himself to put aside melee combat until his stats were strong enough. Now he focused on healing his injured teammates. Not only that fighting up close at this distance was extremely dangerous, but in Jihan's mind a voice asked if that was really true when he saw Hai Sung skillfully swinging his sword like that. The old Jihan spoke up, reminding him not to waste valuable skills hitting the center of the target. Keeping skills like that secret would truly be a waste. Shocked and silent, Jihan watched Hai Sung unleash an SSS-Rank skill that let him absorb the stats of the nearest monster he just killed. A powerful skill that instantly boosts physical strength. This buff lasts 5 minutes, but if he kills 10 monsters in a row, his stats keep increasing continuously. John had been searching for a skill that could enhance physical stats for a long time. Now he found a treasure in Hai Sung, the legendary warrior standing among the slain monsters. Right after the minions were defeated, the area boss appeared as a poisonous lizard named Kinga. The boss's appearance set the players on alert, but honestly, this was nothing for Hai Sung. He immediately activated a special skill that broke his limit, boosting his attack power by 1 level for 60 seconds. In a berserk state, Hai Sung killed the boss with a single sword strike before it could launch its first attack. The boss was instantly defeated, and its soul was absorbed, increasing each player's stats. And just like that, the raid ended smoothly without any trouble. Heiji was a bit jealous for not having a chance to shine, while her brother thought she was ungrateful for not appreciating the incredible team carry. John was quite surprised that even those who contributed nothing still received rewards, but Heiji told him that actually wasn't the case. Because he kept looting and going for loot, the system automatically calculated contribution points for him. He had always wondered why support players leveled up so fast. And now he realized after this warm-up session. Hai Sung turned to everyone and said he would briefly explain and split the groups before distributing rewards. While the others babbled, explaining everything, John just let it go in one ear and out the other. You were completely distracted because your mind was drawn to a skill called Catalyst. A skill you obtained after defeating the boss just now. A pet house level skill costing 800 mana, but in return it inflicts critical poison damage to the opponent. John wondered if he could make good use of it. Then, with a silly look on his face, he realized he didn't need to worry about it at all. What really interested him were the 2 new skills, both ranked above S and extremely powerful in boosting physical stats. Obviously, those were the skills of the leader Hai Sung that Jian had just secretly learned. Meanwhile, the group leader turned to look at the Hellers and asked, "By the way, what's with that face?" Bye, with that goofy expression. But at this point, Jian didn't care about anything anymore. He just wanted to go home immediately to test out the new skills. A few more days passed, and the raid group still hadn't launched an attack on the Sky Island. John felt completely exhausted and opened his status panel to check. Finally, he had accumulated 4,000 points. With this amount, he could defeat the boss without too much difficulty. The funniest thing was how he had earned all those points. He had to kill a total of 120 monsters every day during daily raids to reach this level. The quests appeared continuously to the point that he hardly had time to rest. Yet he still felt happy because at least he still had tasks to do. Although afterward he was completely worn out. Jian jumped up excitedly, causing his skill copying system to upgrade to level 3. After spending the last 4,000 points, this skill was finally upgraded. Something Jian had been sacrificing himself to the capitalists for these past few days. In his original plan, he intended to combine 2 skills obtained from the crab raid to boost physical stats. But with Hai Sung's appearance, he now had much more powerful skills, making him start craving a 4th skill copy slot to maximize what he had. Combining Blood Frenzy, Light Glory, and Mutation Resistance with an attack skill was truly overpowered. Imagine 3 powerful effects combined into one strike. That was exactly what John was pursuing. And he thought with that combination he could surpass even people like Hai Sung. Although having 4 skill slots would be better, there was no choice but to be temporarily satisfied with the current 3 slots. So he continued copying Fireball, Light Glory, and finally Mutation Resistance to prepare for the upcoming raid. In the next scene, Jihan faced a wolf-type monster that was probably very high level. But with a sinister smile on his face, he knew that damn monster was about to be burned to ashes by his new skills. His massacre in the field caught the attention of many and sparked discussions on the forum. He became famous with the title of the psychopath who kills using just a fireball. A video clip recorded Jihan's fight with the squad. Jihan skillfully lured a boss from the outskirts away from the main group, and just as the giant snake was about to bite him, he launched a giant fireball causing insane damage in a single shot. His mysterious identity was now a hot topic on the forum. Not to mention his movement speed was so impressive that many began to doubt whether he was really a mage. Focusing on the snake as it attacked the others, John saved many by casting a fireball. Then he had to keep running when the snake chased after him. The scenario repeated over and over. Just one fireball was enough to destroy anything blocking his way. Other players were stunned at how the psychopath reduced the boss's health with continuous small attacks. In the next scene, we follow the world's #1 player, Muhammad, who currently had about an hour and a half of free time. Muhammad felt satisfied watching over and over a video of the mysterious player single-handedly defeating the mountain snake that had been raging online recently. His assistant asked if he was worried about that infamous psychopath. Muhammad nodded confidently, saying that person was actually Jihan, because I was the one who gave him the elemental ring not long ago. But more importantly, that ring had no effect on stamina, meaning Jihan's recent achievements definitely came from other skills. Watching him fight Muhammad felt like he was seeing a professional warrior seasoned in battle. At this moment, Muhammad asked his assistant about the Sun Raider Guild. He requested information about this guild. His assistant explained that there have been many recent reports of their appearances. They are starting to appear near special battlefields. Hearing this, Muhammad assigned her the task of closely monitoring both Jihan and the Hunters Guild, because clearly the world will pay more attention to him. As he spoke, Muhammad also entered the house. Speaking of the Hunters Guild, their leader was also watching the video of Jihan defeating the mountain serpent under the alias the Psychopath. This proved they were closely tracking all of his activities and seemed to have no good intentions toward this so-called psychopath. Jihan checked the latest social media updates and immediately got furious upon seeing a certain video. He clenched his teeth tightly, clearly extremely angry because he was the one who did all the hard work. Yet the video was posted by someone who did nothing but still earn the revenue. What made him even more furious was that the video didn't show a single frame of his face. How could the pretty girls know to follow me like this? At that moment, an idea struck him like lightning. Why not just post the video himself? Without wasting time, he pulled out his phone and planned a recording strategy with a clear plan. This time, he would make money from his own channel. The video title would be Level 10 Mage Solo Boss at Mountain Serpent Battlefield. Jihan began daydreaming that the video from this canal raid might explode in popularity, bringing in tons of views. He imagined becoming rich overnight from ad revenue, visualizing himself receiving a YouTube Gold Play button from just a single video. But then he was quickly pulled back to the cold reality in front of him. Now he was wondering how he could gather materials in pitch-black darkness when he couldn't even see the path. Daily Rank B mission: collect 10 essences in the special area. Kill 20 monsters and survive there for over 60 minutes. Until now, Jihan had only received Rank E or F missions, so seeing such a high-rank mission surprised him completely and made him regret coming here at night, especially after wasting the whole day sleeping like a lazy worm just because he caught a numb snake the day before. Jihan began considering completing the mission before the skill reset at midnight because he didn't want to miss the opportunity. While still thinking, he noticed a blue crystal orb on the ground and immediately picked it up without hesitation. It turned out to be the crystal the mission required him to collect in the special area, meaning now he only needed 9 more. At first, he thought he would have to kill monsters to get these items as drops, but the mission actually wanted him to explore every corner of the area. This mission was really more frustrating than he thought, and if it weren't a Rank B mission, he probably would have skipped it long ago, especially when thinking about running around just to collect these glowing orbs. Just then, a sudden ambush by a giant eagle from behind startled him. Jihan quickly turned around, but it was probably too late. A huge bird almost tore him apart. However, somehow he managed to dodge just in time and save his own life. Something feels off here. Jihan's nerves started working, and he silently thought he really wasn't capable of doing that. That was when he suddenly realized this was probably the result of using both Radiance and his mutation resistance skill at the same time. That's for later now. Focus on gathering materials first. Without wasting time, he launched a fireball that incinerated the giant eagle in an instant. The explosion from his attack attracted the attention of some raiders nearby, making them wonder who would be hunting monsters at night like this. Their leader seemed fired up, clearly wanting to take down the Angel of Luck before Hai Sung could steal the spotlight. The scouting team said they spotted it to the northwest right. When a subordinate asked what to do, if another user blocked the raid, he coldly ordered to eliminate anyone who appeared without hesitation and ensure no one left alive. This face not being a villain would be a bit of a waste. Back to Jihan, you have completed the monster hunting part of the mission. Moreover, you have collected 9 out of the 10 required crystals. This shows you can definitely finish the mission before midnight. Just then, a loud noise came from behind, and when Jihan turned to check, he found nothing less than the giant angelic monster hovering in the sky. The sight made him worried because the guild raid was scheduled for tomorrow, and if things continued like this, the boss could be stolen before they even arrived. The masked raiders kept attacking the boss Hino, making him even more anxious as things started to spiral out of control. At this rate, it won't be long before it can't hold out anymore. At that moment, as usual, a new mission was activated for him, requiring the conquest of a special F-rank area. At the same time, another B-rank side mission appeared, asking him to eliminate the boss that had invaded Earth and destroy the entire special area. Jihan pondered the content of the 2 missions while trying to understand exactly what conquest meant here, since no details explained how much was required. He wondered if the mission required him to personally defeat the monster. In any case, he decided not to overthink it and just sat back to watch the chaos from a safe distance. Just then, one of Hino's wings was damaged. The masked group successfully brought it down to the ground and immediately shouted, this was their chance to finish off the beast and claim the reward. Meanwhile, Jihan sat comfortably on the grass with a relaxed expression, enjoying the scene like watching a late-night movie. A notification appeared if Hino's health drops below 50%, and it can no longer fly. A conviction effect will be added to its attacks. Not only that, this moment marked the beginning of Phase 3 in the boss fight, as Hino started powering up with a major buff. A strong wind blew past, forcing him to shield his eyes from the flying dust. As if by divine arrangement, Jian's gaze landed on the last crystal he was searching for. He jumped up to pick it up, humming the Song of the Stars, and thinking it was surprisingly easy to find. Meanwhile, the battle on the other side was still brutal. Just as Jian picked up the crystal, an explosion occurred simultaneously, and the masked group was blasted near his position. While Jian was still baffled by what terrible event had happened, it hurt terribly. Those who fell quickly got up while cursing non-stop. They told each other to quickly find those who were knocked away and regroup fast. As for John, after bumping into the backside of one of the blasted guys, he was lying unconscious nearby. The group approached, asked a few casual questions, assumed he was an ally, and urged him to get up quickly. Hey, gather the squad quickly. Don't tell me losing the mage means the whole team's screwed. John stood up holding a mask which he didn't even know how he got. Wondered who these suspicious people were, and decided to temporarily follow them and figure things out later. At this point, just take it step by step. Just like that, the trio immediately set off to return to the boss. Anyway, thanks to that guy for the mask. The system announced the mission was completed. A random item was saved to the temporary inventory, and the effect of the B-rank mission buff was activated. I'll end this part here, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.